Hello. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this roundtable session of on documentary filmmaking. We are honored to have three esteemed guests with us tonight. Starting from the very right is Anand Pavandan from India, and Mr. Soda Kazuhiro or Japan or America, okay, and Ms. Ruby Yang from Hong Kong. I think all three of them actually don't need any introductions, but I will start with they all have a long friendship with the HKIFF, the film festival. Say, Anand, we first show your films in actually Bombay Art City back in 1987. Although it's a film in 1985, yeah, and then also Father, Son, and Holy War in 1995. And then you came in 1998 for a tribute to you. It's a retrospective, showing 7 or 8 of your films. Yeah, and then you keep coming for 3 or 4 more times to the festival. So it's an old friend of the Hong Kong IFF. And Soda-san too, we start showing your feature film campaign back in 2007, right? Yeah, and then it was hugely popular. I think the audience loved it a lot. Yeah, and then you won the documentary award for peace. Yeah, and then stand on jury when you came for the campaign 2. You see, and actually Anand was also on the jury in 2018 for the documentary film competition too. Ruby also, actually you have been on jury twice, right? 2011 and 2020. 2020, that was quite a special case during the pandemic. You have to do online judging. Is that right? Yeah. And Ruby actually premiered your film Citizen Hong Kong back in 1999, yeah, at the Hong Kong Film Festival. So all three of them is no stranger to Hong Kong and Hong Kong IFF. Okay, so today I would like to start the discussion maybe first with Soda-san. Yeah, he has as we all know, documentary filmmaking has many ways to do it, many schools, a variety of all three of them. I think has, of course, similar understanding and different ones. And we can start with Soda-san. He called his method as observational, right? So. Actually even has his own 10 commandments of how to, not to do what. Yeah. So let's start with Soda-san, please.
Yes, hi, my name is Kazuhiro Soda, and I've been making films, and I call my films observational film series. And we have a new film called The Cats of Gokogu Shrine, which is number 10 or 11 of observational film series. And when I say observational, it doesn't mean I am a third party or being distant from the characters. It means, what I mean by observation is I look and listen carefully and attentively. And I believe observation is a key to make good documentaries and also for the audience to appreciate documentaries. That's why I call my films observational. And I have 10 rules to follow. And these are the 10 commandments of my observational filmmaking. Number 1, no research. I don't do any research before shooting because I want to empty my head as much as possible. I don't want to have preconception. I want to be free from preconception. if you have a preconception, you cannot look and listen carefully because you want to control the situation, right? So yeah, no research. And number two, no meetings with subjects. I don't do any meetings or discussion. What kind of film is it going to be? Because I don't know what kind of film it's going to be. It's an unknown territory, and that's what's really beautiful about documentary filmmaking. You know, you never know what's gonna come out. It's adventure. And number three, no scripts. I don't write any script or even synopsis, because if you write something, you tend to be stuck. You tend to be kind of narrow-minded because of what you wrote. You're kind of stuck. And number four, roll the camera yourself. Because for my method, you know, with my method, it's hard to organize a crew. You know, you never know when and how we shoot. So, you know, I roll my camera, record the sound. The crew is very minimum, usually by myself, or at most, me and my wife and producer, Kyoko Kashiwagi, she's over there. We always have only one person or two people at most. And number five, shoot for as long as possible because you never know what's going to happen. You don't want to miss, you know, anything interesting. So you roll the camera, you don't stop. I usually roll about like 1 hour, 2 hours, non-stop. Number six, cover small areas deeply. Because you cannot observe a big thing, like you cannot observe, let's say, Japan. It's impossible. I mean, where do we look? So you have to limit your scope to make a good observation. So in the case of the Cat of Gokoku Shrine, we focus on this very small shrine in Japan. And we didn't go out of 200 meters radius from this shrine. This way, you know, I can make good observation. And number seven, do not set up a theme or goal before editing, because if you set it up, if you already have a theme, then you pick and choose whatever that's convenient for your theme. And you don't discover, right? So theme is something I discover by editing. It's not something I have beforehand. And number eight, no narration, superimpose titles or music, because I want the audience to observe what's going on in the film. I don't want to interfere with that. Number nine, use long takes because I want the audience to have the room to observe and make up their own interpretations. If you cut, shortcut, then it becomes more manipulative, right? You know, filmmaker manipulate the audience mind. I want to do the opposite. I want the audience to have the freedom. And number 10 is the most difficult thing, pay for the production yourself. Well, the reason is obvious, you know, you need to be independent to have complete freedom. Artistic freedom cannot be achieved without economic freedom. If you are dependent economically to somebody, you cannot have a complete freedom. So that's, these are the 10 rules. And all of my films are made following these rules, yeah.
When did you put down these 10 rules?
When, well, actually, it was, I didn't realize until I wrote a book called why I make documentaries. It's actually translated into Chinese and also English. So if you are curious, please check it out. Why I make documentaries. When I was writing this book, I realized I had like 10 unconscious rules I was following. So I just spit it out. And then, I called it 10 rules back then, but then I jokingly called it, started calling it 10 commandments. Then, especially Europeans and also Americans, they laugh. And, oh, that's catchy. I thought, I found it catchy. So I started calling it 10 commandments. Because it's like a Moses, right? Yeah.
Well, same thing if you call it dogma.
Right, yeah, it's like a dogma, yeah.
So when did you, you said when you write the book, when was that?
Oh, it was 2011 when I was preparing for the release of my film, Peace. I was asked to write a book about peace by an editor in a Japanese publisher. And by writing this book, I kind of theorized my method and philosophy of documentary filmmaking.
So were you shooting on film or on video, digital at that time?
Yes, it was from digital, yeah, because I started making my own films in 2005, and it was right after the digital revolution. And without the revolution, I don't think I'm making any films. Because it's very costly, like a 16 millimeter, and you cannot shoot as long as possible.
That's my question.
With 16 millimeter, it's impossible. So yes, I started as a digital filmmaker. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to play any clips from your film?
Sure. Maybe we can show the Cats of Gokoku Shrines clip.
Number 5.
当たったけどほら当たるのは当たったんだおりゃよかったの綺麗で久しぶりになんか結構面白いなおよしいいねあららららいいねがもらえるぞもうこうやっていいねがもらえるぞ猫が一番大きいやつこれやそうだなこれここ取られ上がってくるこりゃ3匹じゃんほっ猫が狙いをあらもう手やなほんでここへ釣りに来るのは大体年金暮らしの人ばっかりなんでかわかる？
なんでですか？
駐車場即釣り場歩くのが大変なんや
そういうことなんですか？
そういうことよはい他もあんたに寄ってきよったら踏まれるぞおめ踏まれるぞよし監督ここピント合わされここへ 行くぞ。
はい。
はい、け。お、来た来た親分が。
これ
よし。
どうしたの？今日竿持ってねえじゃねえか。
俺はもういつも持ってあげてるわ。ちょっと短いけど。よう言うんだよそんなこと。
竿縮んでしもうとるやん。
おう縮んで。
誰もそいつに食いつかんとお前。そんなもん
ちょっと短いからな。ちょっと払うんで。
誰もよく食いつかんとそんなもん。
ここの港いうかここへ釣りに来ようのが大体何歩25人前後おるかな、25人ぐらいで名前は知らんでもみんな顔見知りばっかりや元何々や
開翻燈啊，唔該。
So they were successfully dimming the light after the clip was over. But yeah, it was bright enough to be able to see, I think. But this is a clip from my latest film that's playing here too tomorrow, and also they added one screening because of the sold out. There are two screenings were completely sold out. They you're adding another screening, right? I mean on April 8th, I guess. Yeah. Well, I wanted to show this clip because you can understand it's not about being distant or being a third party to be observational. I'm a participant. I am looking and listening carefully, but at the same time, I cannot separate myself from the scene because you are there. You cannot be indifferent. You cannot be invisible. Yeah. So I am a participant. I am observing the world, which includes myself. So I wanted to show that example by showing this clip. Yeah.
So it's Ruby's turn.
Hi. I really loved Soda-san's film because I saw his first film, Peace, and I was lucky enough to be on the panel. So the members all decided the film was the best, observing a bunch of cats, and actually among the community, having reconciliation among the community through the animals, looking at the bigger world. Of course, you didn't decide that before, but it's a wonderful film. But in my film, I do it very differently from yours because in documentary there are many styles of making film. Because I always do films on sensitive subject, relatively sensitive subject with people who are underprivileged, or in my case, my film on the children of Blood of Angel District is about a group of HIV/AIDS orphans. I have to get the consent. Otherwise, I couldn't get inside the community at all to even film them. And because that's such a huge subject matter, I have to do quite a bit of research, because without the research, I don't know what went on, and I couldn't be, asking them the right questions. And also, for my case, it was an advocacy film. It's through the children that I don't want. It's about not discriminate people with HIV/AIDS. So it has to be well prepared, and then in the case that I have to deal with the subjects, the children, because they're under 18, the consent, also with the official, everything is complex. In fact, after the film was out, I still have to deal with that because at that time, it was a very sensitive issue in China. I want to show the clip, the first clip, this is about a group of 3 families, and one is a kid whose parents, actually 2 of them, most parents die, and also they got infection through the parents, and then another group of children they're not infected. So I want to show clip 1, I believe. The Provincial District. Clip 1.
我觉得有时候人们都好像都不理解他，觉得这个孩子很不懂事。
快起来，听话啊！哎，对，奶奶听话。你。
可是这样一个孩子，他不知道怎么，他痛苦的时候，不知道怎么排解内心的痛苦，可能他表现出来的就是很逆反的性格。
再就那个，就那个高的那个大的。看，我倒是老师，看，肉嘴肉丸，吃完，哎，吃完的，好吃的很，这是最有营养的。哎，好吃啊，好吃吧？画，姐姐放学了，娘嘞，你要过来，赶快来，到时候花举起来，哎，娘嘞过来拿花哟，
过来拿花哟，
哦，赶快哟，赶快过来拿花哟，
So the first young girl, she's, as the voiceover said, she had a lot of internal pain, and the medication was the AIDS medication. Actually, the whole village know that the most expensive property they have are those medication. So now, actually, the film was made in 2005. So now she actually has a baby, and she's with medication. She's HIV free. But with the second kid, he was totally discriminated by the villagers, and he was abandoned by the whole family, even the uncle and the gentleman, his foster parents. And actually later on, after the film was, during the middle of the film, the foster parent actually also decided not to take care of him, so he went to the center. So I'm showing that, just showing that there's the pain, and then after some care, you can see the kid has this big smile on him. So during the process, we followed the family for about 6 months to 9 months, and we cannot be there all the time, so we went in and out of the village, and then we were lucky enough to have an NGO who took good care of them, and were able to film that. So I think in documentary, many cases, to gain access is most important. And in this matter, if I don't have the NGO, the guardians, to let me into the family, I wasn't able to make the film. And also because she was taking care of the kids, the officials were okay for a team to go in. And so every film, you just have to evaluate the situation. And I think in Japan, it's probably because yours is through a small community, and you probably don't need necessarily their consent. But the consent now, even filming in Hong Kong, is very, very important. Without the consent, because my film on the young group of people called My Voice, My Life is also under 18, and everybody in the school have to sign a consent. So I think in documentary, every situation is very different and depends on which country or where you're filming. So.
I should probably add that, the method I employ is, I'm not saying everybody should, employ the same method. It's, when you find your own method, you become a filmmaker. So it's much, much healthier to have, if you have 100 filmmakers, we have 100 different ways of filmmaking and philosophy. So yeah, that's the basis, of my, claim. So yeah, that's the basis. So I have nothing against.
No, I'm not criticizing your way. I think every filmmaker has to find their own way, their own vision to make a film. So it's okay, but as long as the end result of the film is authentic, I think that's the
most important thing. Yeah.
Actually, it depends very much on the subject of your films. And I think Anand's subject, for example, everybody has similarities and differences. For example, your film definitely needs a lot of research, like Ruby's, but also you are also a participant most of the time in the filmmaking, right? Not just observation, no. You also participate, you see, like Soda-san. So maybe how's your response to the two speakers so far?
I don't know, is this on? Yeah, I guess it's on. So I actually share some of these 10 commandments, but if I made rules for myself, I'm sure I'd be the first one to break the rules at some point. because even each film has its own logic, but I think one of the most important commandments that we have in common is that we don't take money to make the film. I've always made films starting with my own money, and I've tried to, I've been making films for 50 years now. So I somehow succeeded in recycling my money from one film to the next, rather than writing a proposal with a script. I also never write scripts. So, and I also never do research except during the film. Meaning, it's when I decided to make a film, then I learn more about that subject, because I'm making the film, I'm editing over many years. And in that period, I'm also doing research. I made an anti-nuclear film. I studied about everything from Hiroshima and Nagasaki later while making the film. But I didn't start because of research. I started because India and Pakistan did nuclear tests, and I was very upset that people were celebrating. And the Hibakusha from Japan, the people who suffered in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, actually came to India and Pakistan to tell us their experiences, and they invited me back. So each film has its own story of how it began, but it never began because I decided to make a film. I sort of slipped into it somehow, and then continued forward. And you're right when you said that my films are kind of interventionist as well as observationalist. Some parts are observational, where the camera is looking at what's going on, but some parts are also I've taken sides, meaning I'm not making a kind of neutral film in the sense of trying to be complete. I am trying to be objective in my own way, but I've taken sides. I mean, there's a right and wrong that is happening in front of the camera, and I'm identifying with some people and not maybe making fun of some people or trying to criticize them in some way. So there is a decision made in that sense, not completely observational, but also not telling lies. I do a lot of hard work to fact check what I'm doing so that I don't end up with a silly error. That I want to be factually correct and historically correct. Yeah, so, and if you want to show a clip, we can show a clip and talk some more. But I think maybe we'll show Bombay, our city.
Okay.
Because it will open the discussion if we show that.
Bombay, our city. Yeah.
And it would be nice to put off the lights because, again, the other thing I should tell you is that when I started filmmaking, there was no video. So I had to start with 16 millimeter. In fact, I started with Super 8 and 8 millimeter. And then, because there was no money to blow it up to 16, we actually projected it on the screen and filmed it with a 16 millimeter camera after. That's the first film. But then eventually 16 millimeter till 1995. And then when video began, I did high 8 first, then mini DV when it began. And mini DV, you're right, that changed the whole story because we could edit more. We had a lot of material and we could sit on the editing table and work with that. And in fact, even till the last film that I made, I didn't even shoot on HD. It was all mini DV until Reason was the first film that I did in HD. And even this film that I'm now showing, most of it is shot on mini DV, even VHS, and some of it on HD. So it's a mixed bag. The other rule, I guess, not a rule, but a preference, not a rule because I break my own rules sometimes, is that I don't use background music. If I have music in the film, I try to show the source of the music. So I have many films which are showing the musicians, because the musicians are also in some way a character, or the music is part of the story. But I don't like it if somebody dies, you play the violin or something like that. I don't want to mood enhance with music. But so music is part of the storytelling, but it's not outside music usually. So, okay, so let's see Bombay, our city a little bit.
And we can talk more about that.
बाल बच्चा का अपना तो लेके फुट पर के पड़ेला है। तुम तो टेपकोटर में तो अपना आवाज़ भर लेता है, फिर वो गरीब गोरू का कुछ करता है कि नहीं करता? हाँ, उधर सोना भी नहीं देता, खाना पकाना भी नहीं देता और कुछ भी नहीं है। वो बच्चा का 1 टन भी हो गया कल, रक्षा का नीचे आया बच्चा। रात को रोड पे सोए यहाँ पर अभी अपन कहाँ रहेगा, कहाँ जाएगा? अपना कुछ है इलाज? कोई गरीब के लिए है? कोई भी नहीं। फोटो काटूंगी वाला थोड़ा है। 4 महीने तो अपने को बारिश के लिए तो बंदोबस्त करो, बारिश जाने के बाद में अपन कहाँ भी चले जाए। 4 महीने के लिए मुंह छुपाने को तो जगह दो, उतना भी मुंह ना छुपाने को जगह देता तुम लोग। इसकी फोटो काटूंगी वाला खाली अपना कहना करने का, अपना नाम बढ़ाने का, फोटो निकालने का, बस। अपने क्या करता है तुम लोग ने? तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते। इतना बड़ा गवर्नमेंट ने अपने को भेज दिया, तुम और हम क्या कर सकते हैं? कुछ नहीं कर सकते। गरीब का फोटो मत खींचो, इसमें तो बहुत ही है। क्या खींचे गरीबाची फोटो? पैसे वाले का है, गरीब का कोई नहीं है। गरीब का कोई नहीं है, कोई साथ देने वाला नहीं है गरीब का।
So I showed that clip because to underline that all of us who make films about other people's misery, injustice, we are maybe doing it for a good reason or for noble reasons maybe, but we are actually voyeurs. We are not the people who are actually suffering what we're showing. We're filming somebody else's suffering. And so, in a sense, we don't have the right to do that unless somehow you can convince yourself that this film is going to be useful to the people that you're filming. So I have to convince myself that this film is actually worth making because the people that I'm filming are going to in some way benefit from this. Otherwise, what she said is going to be correct, that you're making money and become famous and what's going to happen to us. So, yeah.
So, was the woman convinced finally about your filmmaking?
Yeah, so actually, this was I began filming the homeless situation of the homeless because the demolition campaign was going on in the 80s to make Bombay good for foreign investment. They wanted to throw the poor out and not let the investors know that there's poverty here. We were fighting to defend the rights of the homeless by doing a court case to stop the demolitions. And initially I started filming because the civil liberties movement asked me to take photographs for their court case. And I started filming, and that's how I got into it. But and over time we actually built a movement of the homeless, and that lasted for many years afterwards. But at this point in time, those slum dwellers didn't know why we were filming. They thought of us as journalists who were just recording their misery. But after the film was made, she loved it, and they wanted to see it again and again, because the other thing that turned out to be empowering was for people who lived in those situations to see themselves on the big screen, as big as Amitabh Bachchan or any movie star who would be on the big screen, that they were only used to seeing the movie stars. When they say in the documentary, when they saw themselves, it was powerful.
Yes, an empowerment. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. So.
I want to interrupt.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
We will have a Q&A section afterwards. There are plenty of time.
What you are talking about, because I want to ask. Actually, Lichato is asking the same thing. Like, did the woman really find your film useful? How you are going to use the film to serve the slumbers?
Yeah.
Okay. How? Have you used the film to serve them?
How? I didn't understand exactly. How did the film help?
Have you used the film to serve them?
To save them. Serve them. Yeah. I heard. I understood. So what happened after the film was made is that we did hundreds of screenings in working class neighborhoods. I'll show you later on a clip of how we show the films. But even this film actually won a national award, and I didn't go for the national award. I sent one of the people from the homeless to go collect it, and then she made a speech in front of everyone about what was happening to them. And then one of the places that we were filming in, that place got demolished, even though a film won a national award, but that place again got demolished and they were homeless again. And so we went on a hunger strike with four people from the homeless sitting on the street, and I joined them, and for 5 days we were on a hunger strike. And then a famous, now it's called Bollywood, a famous actress who had seen the film joined us on the hunger strike. And her name is Shabana Azmi, and some people might know who that is. But when that happened, it became national news. It became front page news all over the country that this famous movie star has gone on hunger strike. And finally the government, we were demanding an alternate piece of land for them to live on. And finally the government gave them that piece of land, so that particular slum got rehabilitated. But I'm not saying that changed the whole story, because in reality, this is an ongoing problem. Today, there are as many, if not more, people who are homeless as there were in 1985.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to talk to you afterwards. I don't want to take up too much time.
But I'd like to jump into the discussion, because she was making a very important point.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fundamental point, and we filmmakers, documentary filmmakers, we need to be conscious about what she's saying. Absolutely. It's really, really like it hurts sometimes when she's, and she's so, but at the same time, she looks so dignified.
Yeah.
And she doesn't look miserable. She's so, powerful.
Yeah.
And it's really up to how we depict and approach what we see.
Yeah.
And we could look her miserable, of course, depending on how we shot her. And the way you shot was, I thought dignifying, and that's very important. And also, we need to kind of always have some sort of a question, and also like a determination that this film, well, for me, documentary is like a sharp knife. It could be useful, it could kill people.
Yeah.
And we need to recognize this, both sides. And I'm always wishing, this film could be good for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And without this wish and sincere determination, we have no rights to film.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, and when she was saying that to me as a cameraman, I was upset. I was taken aback.
Mm.
But the filmmaker in me said, this is important.
Mm.
The human being was feeling upset that she was attacking us for recording. But yeah, I agree with you. So that's why, it's an important part of the film.
Right.
May I jump in? Well, I mentioned consent. Actually, with the consent, it doesn't mean that you have all the rights to portray the person. So the person can later on say, I don't want to be in a film. It happened to me in another film I made in China that is about a villager who's a sort of activist farmer, and he was very concerned about his safety. And so he later on negotiated with me about some scenes, and I negotiated with him. I said, that scene has to be in the film. So later on, he understood why I want that scene to be in. And so the constant negotiation with the protagonist and the filmmaker is an ongoing thing. It happens in every film. Even though you have to consent, you don't have to consent, it still is the intent of the filmmaker. Do you want to exploit them? I think it's very important. You want to really see the truth in it, but yet on the other hand, how far do you go, and not hurting your protagonist. I think that's always the issue.
So far, we have covered the three aspects, the aesthetics and the ethics of documentary filmmaking. The third one, education. We're now doing it, and then we'll open it to the floor for Q&A. Okay, so Ruby has a long teaching experience at the University of Hong Kong on documentary filmmaking. Soda-san has been a visiting professor at University of Michigan for 2 semesters, and Anand has been not exactly teaching, but you have been there also, you are Michigan, for a semester showing your film. You do the introduction and Q&A with the students. So you all have experience of with students of documentaries. So we would like you to share your experience, and see how similar and different are the students in Hong Kong and America, for example, and India, for example.
I think, a couple years ago, I started an initiative called Hong Kong Documentary Initiative. The idea is to have documentary literacy, which is very important, to show different documentaries and have the filmmaker come and explain their intention. And seeing through the documentary, you see the world differently. You know the community. I think that's still very important to have screening, documentary screening, to students and even general community. I think that way they broaden their ideas. And I just talked to Anand, you have a regular screening in India as well. I think the more you show really good documentary, you really open people's mind, and critical thinking, I think, is important. For me, teaching at the University of Hong Kong, a lot of the students are very young, and they haven't seen enough documentaries. So we have documentary appreciation first to open their mind to different types of documentary, and then they do their own films. And a lot of them, we need to ask them to have consent because they come very short time, and then they need to do basically they don't have much time to do research, so they find some subject or a topic, and they go in and discover. Usually the journey of discovery is very good. And actually when I make my film, it's a general, I did my research, but you go in and you always discover something new, and they're real people. So you discover more and more, and that's the joy of documentary filmmaking. So for me, I really want to have more people showing documentary, and that's very important.
Well, I occasionally teach students at universities when I'm asked to do so, and one of the courses I teach is I show I think it's quite similar concept. I show lots of different kind of documentary from all over the world. My theory is if the method of the if method is the cause, then the film is the effect, cause and effect. If you change the method, you change the film. So if you have 100 different ways of method, you have 100 way of, 100 different films. Yeah. So I want to prove that, and because in Japan especially, many young students are only exposed to like NHK type of documentary, like very journalistic reporting kind of documentaries, and they are not exposed to different way of making documentaries. So I want to show different examples. Documentary could be animation, it could be investigative, it could be politically motivated, many different ways, or poetic, it could be, many different ways. So, yeah, and that's the richness of documentary world. So I want to, I have a course like that.
Did it work? For the students?
I think so. Gradually they become kind of, really interested and want to see more. And
So in other words, documentary filmmaking can be taught.
Can be what?
Taught. You can teach them.
Yes, I think so. But I need to just all we can do is just show the door, and they have to open the door and do their work. Yeah.
So, Anand, your response?
So, I think, unfortunately, the way documentaries are taught nowadays in India especially, I don't know, maybe other places, is that, now the idea is that the would-be filmmaker has to learn how to do pitching sessions. So because nowadays a lot of films are made by, some 4 white guys who come to decide who gets to make the film, and then you
decision makers,
you become
they are
like
called.
Decision makers. Yeah. So these are like performing monkeys. You have to actually do it in 5 minutes or 3 minutes. You have to explain the concept to them, and then one gets an award, and they get to make the film. So it's a process that I hate, because I watched it once in Amsterdam. As an observer, I went to one of these pitching things. It was very humiliating, I thought, for the people who were doing it. So anyway, I don't teach as such, but I show films and then talk afterwards, or get people to talk afterwards. I do teach in America sometimes when I run out of money. That's the one way that I can recover some money, is to do what is called teaching. But even there, I'm really showing films and talking afterwards, having a Q&A. And yeah.
Talking about the way you show your films, shall we actually show you the clip when you do the open air?
Yeah, we can show a clip of a film called Jai Bhim Comrade, which is about the people who were considered untouchables in India and discriminated. I made a film which is almost a 3-hour film, which took 14 years to make, and that film was like, even Bombay City, we did that. So that film, we traveled with it a lot in India, in the places where working class lives, and then had those kind of screenings. So this is a small music video. This film is also actually a long music film, because it's about the music of the people who are considered untouchables.
And this clip is about the screening of the film.
And this is about the screening of Jai Bhim Comrade.
Yeah. So the last clip, please.
बेंचें बिछिन गई हैं, सड़कों पे घूमता है अब कारवां हमारा। जेबें हैं अपनी खाली, देता वरना गाली, वो संतरी हमारा, वो कासबा हमारा, चीन अरब हमारा, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, रहने को घर नहीं है सारा जहां हमारा, हिंदुस्तान हमारा। हा 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 हा। जितनी भी बिल्डिंगें थी सेठों ने बांट ली है, फुटपाथ बम्बई के है आशिया हमारा। सोने को हम कलंदर आते हैं बोरी बंदर, हर एक पुली यहाँ का है राजदा हमारा, चीन अरब हमारा, हिंदुस्तान हमारा। तालीम है अधूरी, मिलती नहीं मजूरी, मालूम क्या किसी को दर्दे निहा हमारा, चीनो अरब हमारा। पतला है हाल अपना लेकिन लहू है गाढ़ा, फौलाद से बना है हर नौजवान हमारा। मिलजुल के इस वतन को ऐसा सजाएंगे हम, हैरत से मुंह तकेगा सारा जहां हमारा, चीनो अरब हमारा, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, रहने को घर नहीं है सारा जहां हमारा, चीनो अरब हमारा, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, सारा जहां हमारा।
So that it's actually a movie song from the early 60s, when we still had a kind of socialist ideal. So it's made from the film industry, but progressive people writing the lyrics in those days.
So now is the time for Q&A. So anyone who have questions, please raise your hand. Yeah.
Thank you for the contrasting films to spark this conversation. So I actually have two questions about being authentic. So the first question is, human beings are complex. How do you capture the person while being authentic, like not to victimize or not to empower when there's no power to be had? And the second question is about, how to make a change through your documentaries. And how do you make sure that you're making it authentic, but being able to maybe use the aesthetics, the content to make that film really make a change? So just wondering how you would approach that with the 100 ways that could be done.
That's very difficult. I think that you have to, like Soda-san, you have to pick a small community. You cannot be too ambitious. You have to start with one village or one community and focus, once you go in, you focus on a couple of people and then you observe their story. So that's the best way. And of course, you go in with, for me, I went in, I already know that I want to portray the children with HIV/AIDS or in the village. It's about pollution. So I have the big idea, but also I have to discover through the, going into the village. So, and then you portray them in your film. Of course, you shoot many hours, and then you come back with editing, and you want to find the story that could be portrayed in an hour and a half, or 40 minutes, that you want to bring the important part of the story. And then, of course, you have to think about, what's the story about, and what's you want to tell. And in different documentaries, you show it differently. And I think the intention of the filmmaker is very important. If you go in and say, well, I want to do a promotional film about this village, then you end up with a promotional film. But if you want to go in and really want to see how these people are affected by a disease, and you find a story, and you find a story narrow enough that through the children you can reflect the whole situation. So, and then, for my case, I want to do HIV/AIDS advocacy. So that was about discrimination. So you just, it's a process that every filmmaker goes through. So it's not so simple as we can explain it to you in 5 minutes.
For me, when I'm rolling my camera, all kinds of thoughts come into my mind, or desires, I wish this guy would say something like that, or I wish this event will turn this way. Well, there are so many desires, right? Unconscious desires, or unconscious planning. And if you have that, then you start kind of bending or manipulating the situation so that I could have a perfect scene or desirable scene. And it becomes less authentic. Yeah. So when I notice I have that kind of thoughts, I remind myself, no, I'm making an observational film. I need to observe. I need to look and listen carefully what's going on in front of the camera without thinking about how I can use it. Then gradually, it's like a meditation. When you are thinking about how you can use this scene, you are thinking about the future, right? And you are not focusing what's happening right now. You are kind of absent from the moment. But if you change your mindset to look and listen carefully, your mind comes back to present moment. Then you can have better shooting, actually. And it becomes more authentic. So yeah, observation is the key, I think. Yeah.
So ideally, as a camera person, I would like to be like Soda-san, being observational and not getting influenced by my own ideas while I'm shooting. So I record things as faithfully as I can. But as an editor, I am interventionist because I am actually, at least I grew up, the desire to be a filmmaker didn't come to me first. I wasn't trying to be a filmmaker. I actually was trying to change the world. So in my younger days. So I wanted to make a difference through my cinema and fight for the things that I believed in. And that was the real motivation for why I ended up making films. But over time, I've been doing it for 50 years, I don't have the illusion that my films make a big difference to the world. I know, having experienced that, people are still showing the films that I made 30, 40 years ago, and some of the audience thinks it was made recently because the situation has not improved. where the films are unfortunately relevant so many years later when they shouldn't have been. But so I don't have a great illusion now that I'm changing the world. But I think, in some ways, when you make a film, you change yourself a little bit, and maybe you affect a few people who start thinking about something differently than they would have had they not seen the film. So in small ways, I think you do make a difference or a change, but not in a huge way.
So next question.
Hi, thank you for sharing your experiences. So, Soda-san, you mentioned that you practice the method of observational filmmaking, and that is about like capturing what's happening around you truthfully and then letting the audience decide and interpret for themselves. But I think either you or some other speaker also mentioned that by being there, you're also being a part of the world. You become part of the world that you're capturing. And so my question is, you can say that by observing, you're changing the world that you're observing. And so how do you minimize the impact that you create on what you're observing so that you can capture it more truthfully? Do you try to minimize that impact, or you just kind of accept that you are part of the world?
Well, I accept that I'm part of the world, and I'm changing the world I live in, and I try to be honest about it, and it's okay, because that's how we live, no? I mean, we cannot live without affecting anybody else. It's impossible. Just by breathing every day, you are affecting somebody else. It's impossible not to affect anybody. And if you don't want to affect anybody, the only choice would be just be dead. So yeah, I think filmmaking too. I mean, it's the same thing. Anand-san was saying that he is probably his films are making small differences, but small differences. I mean, that's the differences we make every day, every moment. And films are making that too. And yeah, that's life, I think. Yeah.
Well, as a filmmaker or journalist, and you try to tell the truth at that moment, and that's, at least you show that moment or that whole couple of months at that time, you're making a difference already. I mean, a few people have seen the film, they may impact them for lives. I think, as a teacher at the university, where there are students who took my class and decide to be a filmmaker, and that's affecting his life already. Or the student who want to be a journalist student, and they're writing story about the world and reporting the truth about the world, and that's making a difference. So in a way, every one of us are trying to be a responsible person, whether through media or through writing a story. I think in this world, we just have to be doing something.
Is there a question over there? Yeah.
Hello, thank you for the amazing discussion. I'm a filmmaker myself, a documentary filmmaker. And unfortunately, my questions are both from lived experiences and frustrations. So the first question is, how do you draw the line between documentary filmmaking and activism? And one bleeds into the others and 10 years of your life is gone. And how does one kind of draw that line in the name of making impact when it goes, beyond the film? And the second question is, I really like your 10 Commandments And I would love to have no script and no, until we edit. But then how do you pitch something when funding is a constraint with no script and you really want to write, I want to discover the truth and I really want to discover the moment and my intentions are all pure, but you can't write that in a pitch, unfortunately. So how would you deal with that?
Well, you can't pitch. It's impossible. And it's okay. That's the benefit of, that's the benefit of digital revolution. If you have even a cell phone, smartphone, you can make films actually. So why do you have to pitch? That's my question, actually. I think it's an old way of filmmaking. Filmmaking used to be very expensive, and you had to raise money. But not anymore. Of course, certain films, yes. Some certain films are very expensive to make. In that case, it's a different story. But there are different ways to make films now. You don't need a budget. I don't have a budget, but I don't need it. And it's liberating. And draw the line between activism and documentary filmmaking. For me, it's probably different from Anand-san. I'm not really making films for activism at all. I have my political viewpoints and opinions myself, yes. But filmmaking is different for me. For me, filmmaking is all about depicting the world as I see it. I'm not really trying to change the world by making films. It's about depicting the world the way I see it and sharing it with the audience. And that's my objective. Yeah. I don't know if you, yeah.
No, I think the little that I saw of your film, I think that it does change the world in a very positive way because the people come alive. And even the cats come alive, but I'm not so worried about the cats. But yeah, I think that act of observation is actually also an act of solidarity with the people that you're filming. So I think that there is something, for me, that is political in that. It is an intervention also. And so in my case, I'm actually being straightforward about my intervention in the sense, and also my political views, I don't hide them, because I think that I think it's something, there's no such thing as objective filmmaking. A BBC is not objective, NHK is not objective, the Indian TV or whatever you see, it carries the baggage of the people who are making the films, or showing you that. They have their point of view. And I think the most honest thing to do is to admit to your bias. So I'm admitting to my bias when I make a film. I don't, and even in terms of consent, that question that came about, I think that subconsciously I've made a division between who the people I like in the film, the protagonists, whose consent I definitely need, and I'm worried about what will happen to them if people see this film, and are they going to be safe, and is it okay to film? So I'm concerned about that. But there are times when I'm filming people whom I think are the bad guys. And they are not even going to give me an interview if they knew exactly what I was doing. The guys who actually have caused the problem that I'm showing, like in Bombay City, which you saw a clip from, I also interview rich people who live in apartments who think that these slum dwellers, homeless, are there because they're illiterate and they're lazy, and they have their own justification of how they live and how the others live, and they think of them as illegal homeless people, when in reality the rich people are illegal because they stole to get that money. They didn't pay their taxes. They bought the apartment with black money, so there's no such thing as illegal and legal. So when I'm talking to them, because I also belong to the elite community, they actually accepted me initially because they said, oh, this is one of us. And then when they saw the film, they were like taken aback. So I would be guilty ethically of, maybe you can call it fooling them to be on camera. So this is the ethical question involved, whether you see the ethics in a microcosm of each person whom you filmed. Are you being fair to them? Or are you looking at the larger picture and being fair to the real situation?
There's a good distinction. Okay, for another question? Oh, in the front.
I want to bring back the question to the question of impact, not individually, because all three of you distinguished filmmakers, you're changing the world, changing the community and your objects. Now, in terms of, if we take it broader, you think, how have you changed the global scene of documentary filmmaking? You made allusion to pitching, to, you use a term that I can't repeat. But then what has been your impact in terms of vision, method, and the humanities of it? Anything you're bringing to the world of documentary filmmaking globally? Are you projecting Asian sensitivities, telling Asian stories that are not being told? Whatever. That's my question. Thank you.
Then you can pass it. So, in fact, the method that I've chosen for myself, and I think maybe not the same way, but is that I actually have paid a price for the fact that I don't take money from any corporates. I don't take money from the government. Not the government wants to give me any money anyway. They want to stop the films. But, and I don't take, basically these are non-funded filmmaking, and no commissioning editors or sales agents or anybody is there. So the price that I paid for that is my films are badly underutilized, because I don't have the machinery to make sure that these films are used nationally, internationally. Occasionally, here and there, you can win an award or something like that, but it's not making an impact. It's not in any way changing the political reality that I'm depicting in the film. It's not reaching enough people, because I don't have the mechanism to have a wide reach. So this is something that, I wish there used to be a time when even television, like maybe in the 90s, there was a Channel 4 in England that would show some films made by, in those days, the white people made films. I'm sorry, I don't want to be racist. I'm not talking about color. I'm talking about power. So the people who had the power and who were they were the consumers. They were the people these films would show on TV. They controlled and that's the same power equation that exists if you go the route of pitching, and it's the same people who decide who shall see what. And so, as I said, at one point in time, these TV networks would buy a finished film. They didn't put any money into production. They didn't do co-production. You were able to. They could recognize this film is worth showing. We'll show it. But that's very rare now, because now if you give them a finished film, they're not interested, or they pay you so tiny money for the finished film because they don't have their name on the film and they're not in part of the production process. So that is a situation that I would like to argue that it should be changed. Like, I would say that 50% of programming on TV should be for genuinely independent productions, not for something that TV station themselves thought of.
Well, I shared a lot of opinion with you. The 10 Commandments I have is a reaction to my experience as a TV documentary filmmaker. Actually, if you turn everything upside down, it becomes how to make TV documentaries. Number one, do research, right? have a discussion with the subjects and write script, everything, and don't pay for the production yourself. Yeah, I mean, if you turn upside down, it's how to make TV shows, and it's a reaction. I mean, for me to it's a reactional thing that I wanted to resist, with what's going on. It's pre-existing harmony, and decision makers, so-called, it's such a ridiculous terminology, they are that, I mean, we filmmakers decide what to make, no? But yeah, I really think so. And we are supposed to be independent filmmakers, but we allow them to decide. That's so ridiculous. So yeah, you said you're paying for it, paying the price of being independent. Yeah, yes, but I think it's okay. I mean, for me, small is beautiful. Because size matters. If size becomes bigger, it involves so many people, and it gets much more political. And I mean, inside politics, it creates inside politics, and it gets less pure. And I mean, of course, you can have, large films with large audience. I mean, I have no objection to it. But, it's great. It's great to have, small productions, small films that could, open up, some people's mind. It's a beauty, I think, that we can make that kind of films. And, yeah, I don't really have any, yeah.
Well, I made film before the decision maker was trendy. I mean, it's trendy. So when I start making my film, I have to write a lot of proposal. So luckily, at that time, the filmmaker has totally editorial control. In all my films, I have totally editorial control. But of course, your proposal have to write what you want to do in the film, a general idea. So that exists back in the late 80s and 90s. So I was very lucky to make film that way. So, and they don't say anything about the end result except the length has to fit for television. And then for the Blood of Yingzhou district was through public health campaign. So nobody has to tell us what to, at the end of the film, what we have to take out. It's just that I have a very experienced producer. We work together. And so there are many ways to work as an independent filmmaker. But nowadays it's harder and harder because when you both started, there's so few filmmakers. Now you can have, at the Sundance Film Festival, you have 5,000 entries. That's ridiculous, right? So you have to, then that's why you have decision maker, because you are at that level, you already want to get up the ladder so that you are noticed by the decision maker, the pitch, and then you can be at top, and then you can enter Sundance, you can enter into, Tribeca, and that's the pyramid. I think it's hard for people who are now entering the crowded market. And being independent is become a luxury. But I think for young people, I told my student, you have to practice because that's a reality. You have to do your pitching, you have to be, you know what you're doing, because some of the young students, they don't know even have no idea what to do. Like, they're not experienced filmmaker. They're not. So that way, it's a training. So we have to sort of give them some background. I think that with the answer about impact, I think each of us, who pour our energy into making a film, we want to have impact. And in my case, I want to make a film that try to make a difference. And in China, you can do it because it's control. And there's a lot of venue now in China. Of course, there's censorship. But if you make a film that you can stream on that platform, you reach 1 billion people easily, so that you can make an impact. But of course, political impact is very tough. So there are ways to do it. And I think a seasoned filmmaker will know how to say something to the, just, sort of on the outside, and the curve, pushing the envelope a bit. I think you can still, as independent filmmaker, you can still make a difference. I know there are Chinese filmmakers who are still making films, and they survive. They are doing sort of consider sensitive subject matter. So I think we have to do it. So the impact is there as long as we make an authentic story.
Time flies, and we are coming to the close of this roundtable. So many thanks to our 3 speakers and to the audience. Thank you.